Hello and welcome to yet another episode or another vlog. So today I want to talk about situational morality, which is a different kind of morality. It is the morality that exists in between moral absolutism and moral relativism. So what exactly are those two things? Let me define them. Moral absolutism is the idea that there are a rigid set of rules as to what is right and what is wrong. So for every set of actions, it is predetermined, no matter which situation, that this is right or this is wrong, that is good or it's bad. Right? So that's moral absolutism, and it is unchangeable. You cannot change it. There is no interpretation. It's just right or wrong. So the opposite to that is moral relativism. So moral relativism is basically the view that there is no such thing as objective morality. Instead, that everybody's morality is subjective to themselves. So my definition of good and bad runs for me, and your definition of good and bad runs for you. There is no standard by which both of us will uphold as a matter of opinion. So my sense is that neither of these are really good ways of living, and here's why. So moral absolutism has issues because it falls prey to dogma. So the issue with dogma is that it is unable to adapt to change. So you cannot adapt to a situation that is great. When two rules are conflicting with each other, which do you follow, right? And that's moral absolutism runs into that problem. And not only that, but if one of the rules is wrong, essentially when something is good, even though it's actually bad, you can't change it. You can't argue that it's different because it's so dogmatic. You have to follow it no matter what. And this gives rise to corruption and tyrannical structures. Moral relativism also has its issues. I mean, this one is quite obvious. You are unable to hold anybody accountable for something wrong that they did, right? If they did something that is wrong, you can't tell them that it's wrong because there's no such standard. You can't tell the person that he's doing something wrong because to him it's right, and if he says it's right, it's right. So what's right is simply a matter of opinion after that. So then what is the solution, right? So my sense is that situational morality, maybe there's a better name for it, is the key to resolving these two issues. So situational morality refers not to a set of rules, a list of right and wrongs, but rather a spirit or a heart, right? So a spirit is essentially just guiding principles for what you should do in every situation. It's like an underlying axiom or that you follow, and so the proper way to act is extracted from these axioms, and you can apply it to any situation. This overcomes moral relativism because the axioms are objective and universal. They have to apply to everybody, right? The axioms themselves apply to everybody. So one example in the Christian context is do that which glorifies God. And so what Christians do is they view every action they do with the idea or with the heart trying to glorify God. And so you adapt your actions and your decisions and your moral decisions based on that. So what are the advantages of situational morality? So situational morality allows you to adapt. It allows you to change when change is needed. It doesn't condemn you when you are faced with grey situations or you have no choice. Right? There are really some places where I mean, it's really grey. And if you have moral absolutism, you just can't overcome that, right? You might end up making a decision that isn't actually right because you thought the action itself was wrong no matter what. The same action for one situation could be good, but the exact same action in another situation could be bad. So this is the adaptable nature and the advantage of situational morality. So as with all systems, there are disadvantages as well. So one big disadvantage of situational morality is the fact that in order to know what to do, you have to trust people's discernment. Right? You have to trust the fact that they discern the situation correctly and they make the correct actions from it. Not only that, but you also have to trust that they interpreted the axioms and the principles and the spirit correctly. Right? They have to have looked at the spirit and they have to have interpreted the heart rightly and applied it rightly. And this gives rise to certain issues like poor discernment, poor judgment. It has a similar issue to moral relativism, whereby the extraction of the value is subjective, but the actual value itself isn't subjective, and that's what makes situational morality different from moral relativism. So to end off this video, I want to link it to Christianity. I want to link it to the Bible and the story of Jesus. Essentially, what Jesus came down to earth to do was to grant us the Spirit. Like, the difference between the Old and the New Testament in terms of morality, in terms of laws, is the Spirit that came with Jesus. So what God did is that God basically told all of humanity, okay, now I'm going to ask you guys not to follow all of these rules that I wrote down in the Old Testament anymore, and instead you shall now live by these set of spirits that I've given to you, these guiding principles, one of which I outlined earlier was do that which glorifies God, right? And you might ask, well, what was the point of giving the rules in the first place in the Old Testament? But I think that the Old Testament was actually to show you the kind of character that God had, right? The rules were there to show you this is kind of an outline of what God likes and what God favors, right? And so you can extract these lessons from the Old Testament and then carry on with your life and form new rules and new principles in the future. And it's so interesting because what Jesus did was that he actually extended the rules beyond the Ten Commandments, right? At first it was don't commit adultery, but then Jesus said, well, if you look at another woman with lust, you have already committed adultery. And this wasn't written in the rules, but it follows the guiding principles, right, of not lusting in your heart, right, not disappointing God in that way. And so this is exactly what God has called his people to do, to live by this spirit that he has given, and it is akin to the Holy Spirit. And so this is, I would say, one of the more genius ways that Christianity gets around morality and one of God's genius designs. So yeah, thanks for watching, and do let me know what you think in the comments below.